The first category of things you can do to change your team for the better, to enhance your team effectiveness, is to focus on getting better aligned. Now, alignment is really about, does every individual on your team know how they add value and how they add the most value? Does that make sense with the roles in between you? Do we know how we intersect? Does our team know the value we add relative to other teams in the organization? And is all of that aligned to creating value for our ultimate stakeholders, our customers, our shareholders? That's what good alignment looks like. We can link right from how I am spending my time each day to adding value for the ultimate stakeholders. So things that can help you in terms of a team effectiveness process. Well, one of the things I find is that starting with things outside the organization makes people more receptive and more willing to get better than if you start by looking at behavior. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, start by talking about what's changing in the environment. What's changing in the outside world? These kinds of things are changing constantly. How is AI radically changing how our work is done? How are much higher interest rates or inflation affecting things? There are always things going on in the world that can be used as the jumping off point for questions about, do we need to realign what we're paying attention to, what value we're adding, what our priorities are? All of those questions are great team effectiveness questions. You can ask questions about opportunities and threats. You can ask about your strategies. Do we have the right strategies for capitalizing on opportunities and mitigating threats? You can ask about the tactics. Maybe you have great strategies, but you've kind of used up one set of tactics and it's time to refresh and get to a new one. Maybe your strategies are okay, but it's time to change your goals. Maybe you've accomplished a bunch of them and you have to make them more stretch, or the environment's changing in a way that you're not going to achieve those and you maybe need to make them more reasonable. So all of those things can turn into a much better aligned team. We're all on the same page about what's happening in the world, how that affects our organization and our team, what we need to pay attention to differently, what we need to do more and less of. And that cascades all the way down to every single individual starting their day, knowing what they need to pay attention to and what they need to prioritize. That is the fastest path to a more effective team. And what's interesting about starting with realignment is that you don't have to worry about how triggering it is when you go into a team effectiveness exercise and start by pointing and blaming for bad behavior. So realignment is the best place to start if you want to invigorate your team, revitalize your team for sure. Now, if you've done those things and you are now much better aligned, everyone is clear about what takes precedence, great. Now there is a second component, and that is more about the team dynamic. So you may need to revitalize your team. And that comes back to, at the most fundamental level, do we need to work on trust? Because trust is the cornerstone of all that's going on in a team. So whether you are communicating transparently, well, depends on trust, right? Are you having the kind of productive conflict using radical candor, as Kim Scott calls it? Well, depends. Is there trust? So you want to come back to things that help you build trust. So can we get a better connection among us? That's the most fundamental thing. Maybe you've never physically worked together with this group of people, and it's time to invest in a couple of days spent together so you can talk and have downtime. Maybe the issue is about credibility and people aren't really confident in one another, and you need to invest in skill building and performance management. Maybe it's about reliability. That's what's eroded trust on your team, and it's time to make sure that, okay, we have not got the same priorities. We are not delivering for one another. We're all overwhelmed and trying to do too much. Let's go back to that and share with one another about that, how that's affecting us. And of course, it's possible that the issue is more at the level of integrity. And when it's at the level of integrity, it's going to take lots of time and energy to get to a place where people can be vulnerable with one another, share how behavior is affecting each other. So in terms of team effectiveness tactics or things you can do, I really encourage using some kind of assessment tool. My favorite assessment tool is the Berkman method, but there's the Hogan assessment suite, there's the DISC, there's a variety of different tools you can use to just start to help people be a little more self-aware, but also to be aware of how their style and their behavior impacts on others. So that's time and money usually very well spent. But there are other things that you can do, working on your ground rules, renegotiating how you're going to treat one another, focusing on productive conflict. Obviously, a lot of my work is about enhancing the amount of productive conflict, what I call productive tensions, and decreasing the amount of unhealthy friction on your team. That's another great initiative you can do. So if you're looking at your team and thinking either we're not getting enough done, or we're getting things done, but it hurts way more than it should, well, both of those things suggest it's time to work on your team effectiveness. I'm always going to recommend that you work on alignment first, work on the business issues, making sure everyone has shared expectations about what value they need to be creating and the team together needs to be creating, and that you've got your systems and processes and expectations and roles and goals and all that good stuff lined up to that. Start there and then move to the behavioral side. Are we trusting each other? Are we connected? Are we reliable and able to depend on one another? Do we understand one another as humans? Are we bringing the hardest conversations? So that 1-2 approach assures that you're going to get to both dimensions of what makes a team effective. Okay, if you want a little more advice on how to go after those trust issues, I have a whole series on how to bolster trust at each of these levels. You can check that out.